You know, I've often said, haven't I, chums, the things that makes the royals laugh, well, basically make us all laugh, you know, the sort of thing I mean. And what I find fascinating about learning in royal history is how, for instance, say, certain performers were seen indelicate, you know. Even when you go right back to the Middle Ages, court jesters were the one that could live or die by their act. I know that feeling, do you know what I'm saying? And then, of course, they came up with a big hook, didn't they? That if, of course, you displeased His Majesty the King or the Queen, the hook would come out of nowhere, whip you off stage, and that was the end of that. Felt that a little bit as well. But cast your mind back to way in the early 70s. And this is a fascinating story about really a collection of people that shouldn't have been royal favourites. But what happened was they suddenly did become royal favourites and shocked quite a lot of people. As ever, let me explain. Morning chums, nice to see you. Thank you so much as ever for your time today, and welcome one and all brand new subscribers. Laughter is the best medicine, as they say. Yes, you know that. Well, unless of course you need your medicine, you know, but that's the thing, isn't it? Laughter is everything. As I've often said here on the show, we'll have a lovely wave. It's about just having that release and relaxing and laughing at the simple things of life that we all do. You know, the sort of thing. Why do you go to the doctors and somebody says, what you're here for? Well, if you were terrifically healthy, you wouldn't be there, would you? That's the whole point. Yes, you might be having a test, but then, you know, you hear somebody say, well, I've come with my head. And you think, well, you couldn't come without your head, could you? So there's your problem. That's the thing about what makes comedy funny. It's about a collective thing that we all know. And these particular people, way back in the 1970s, put together by the producer from Granada TV, Johnny on your entertainment news today with the wonderful, the legendary Mr. Johnny Ham. Remember though, Johnny?
If you miss it, you'll miss out.
Don't miss Johnny today on your entertainment news. We've got his wife V watching too. The comedians really did break ground. Now, they started out, of course, as a collection of comedians from the great British working men's clubs of Manchester and Lancashire and Yorkshire. And the idea really was that they were all going to come on, tell a couple of jokes, and it was edited in. The show became a phenomenal success. Now, here's where it gets really interesting because, as you can imagine, right, the show itself had a lot of big stars, including this man, the wonderful Ken Godwin. Who remembers Ken? Met him, lovely man, very down to earth, and just very, very funny. Gentle humour, could play the ukulele, and also a very fine singer. So much, in fact, that he had a song written for him by the super songwriters producers, Tony Hatch and Jackie Trent. Yes, titled Settle Down. That was his catchphrase, you see, settle down now. Now, he was one of the very first comedians to be asked and picked to appear at the Royal Variety Performance at the world famous London Palladium in front of Her Majesty the Queen. But it was thought, you see, that the whole point of this was a request was put through. And the idea really was, well, you know, maybe it's just because, of course, the Duke of Edinburgh. Turns out, though, that it was in fact the Queen. As many people know, she was a huge fan of George Formby, loved people playing the ukulele, and loved, of course, Ken's gentle, very funny and down-to-earth humour. But that wasn't it, because as Ken broke the mould by appearing also in his own TV series, the rest of the comedians were asked to appear in front of royalty, including the ubiquitous Bernard Manning. Oh yes, and everybody thought, Bernard, ooh, rock fire, what could possibly go wrong there? But Bernard was on his very best behaviour, and it turned out that the Queen was very aware of Bernard Manning's comedy. The reason for this story is I was lucky enough to meet, of course, and become friends with the producer John Hamp, and interviewed him many years ago, and we've remained friends since. And it's interesting to note that this particular series, The Wheel Tappers and Shunters Club, which was a sort of spin-off from the comedians, is now being re-shown over here in the United Kingdom on a TV channel. What's fascinating also is, many years ago, people said, no, you could never put these people on in front of the royals because, no, it's not their humour. When Ken Godwin first appeared at the Palladium in front of Her Majesty the Queen, the person who laughed the loudest was none other than this man. Who remembers the gorgeous and talented Sacha Distel? Now, do you remember the song? That's right, Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, a wonderful song by Bacharach David, right? And top of the bill that year was none other than the now Dame Shirley Bassey, a huge royal favourite. But as Ken pointed out seconds before he went on, he felt like something of an intruder. But by a few minutes into his act, he could see the Queen laughing alongside the Duke of Edinburgh uproariously. And she purposely said in the lineup afterwards, "I really enjoyed your act. I only wish you could have played more of your ukulele." And that's the story of a man who literally found fame a little late in life and suddenly was able to perform in front of our wonderful monarch to great success. As I said, laughter truly is the very best medicine. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.